any commencement has this huge party atmosphere, which is both the end of something and the beginning of something. So it really holds a special place in my heart when I see all the parents and all the kids getting together to celebrate something getting finished and something getting started. And of course, being a part of it to get an honorary degree is particularly exciting, especially from this institution. Even though I was educated in France as an undergraduate, for a concourse of circumstances, I received a liberal arts education. I feel very, very fortunate to have been exposed to not only mathematics and economics, but only on ancient Greek and history and philosophy and literature, because the perspective that you get looking at the world from the combination of the humanities and a technical background, I think gives you a quite unique way of thinking about problems with two sides of the brain, so to speak, and maybe also leaves a little place for empathy that would be a little harder if you came entirely from a very specialized background. I was excited to move and to see something different, but I had no idea what I was going to find here, and in a sense, maybe that was not a bad thing. I was very open. I was absolutely thrilled when I arrived in the US by the quality of the education I got at MIT. In all of my travel, I tried to keep that, just kind of get what you came from, get the best out of it, and not compare it necessarily from where you came from. Maybe being rooted is the hardest part. To these days, I don't really know where home is. In many ways, home is Boston. I've been there now for the longest I've ever been somewhere, but I still think of home as Paris as well. And it becomes maybe a little bit footloose. That's something which I have lost, perhaps with my own action, and something that I wish I would have had a better way to keep. So inspiration is everywhere. It's the problem of poverty, when you look at it from far away and we try to adopt this broader perspective, it seems too big and too intractable. How can we possibly end poverty? But when you look at it, when you start looking at it seriously with a view of making progress, not just talking about making progress, then you realize that, it subdivides into a myriad of questions that are much more specific and that you can get a handle on. So the questions, you start from this very big question, which is the one that gives me energy, which is, it's not acceptable that I grew up in upper middle class neighborhood in France, and now I live in these very comfortable circumstances in Boston. It's not acceptable that I just do that while so many people are living in this much, much harder circumstances. So that gives me the reason for being alive and the reason for working at a broad scale. But then the way it becomes practical in everyday life is solving much more specific, concrete issues. So I'm not about eradicating poverty tomorrow or in 10 years even. I'm about thinking, okay, how is it that kids go to school but they don't learn anything at school? Is it something that we can improve within the school? First in one place, and then in 2 places, and then in 100 places, and then maybe as a more general policy change once we understand better what are the fundamental problems that hinders learning. So you go with that back and forth between a very broad, very ambitious vision and a much more concrete, actionable day-to-day life, which involves partners, which involves poor people you're meeting along the way, which involves many young people I work with, and all of that, contributes to giving the energy and keeping it alive.